My guest today is David Henkin, author of a book called The Week, A History of the Unnatural Rhythms That Made Us Who We Are. I first became aware of David's work when I came across an article in the Atlantic magazine titled, "We Live by a Unit of Time That Doesn't Make Sense." And while that's not totally true, in my opinion, there's a lot about this world that doesn't make sense. There's a lot about time that doesn't seem to make sense. And David explores that. He is a professor of history at Berkeley. His research interests include America since 1607 and the way that timekeeping affects the ways that we live. His book's website explains that we take the 7-day week for granted, rarely asking what anchors it or what it does to us. Yet weeks are not dictated by the natural order. They are, in fact, an artificial construction of the modern world. An investigation into the evolution of the 7-day week and how our attachment to its rhythm influences how we live is what this book is all about. I am a learning nerd. If you know me, you know that. I really enjoyed this book. I learned a lot about it. But one of my biggest takeaways, and I don't want to steal the thunder of this interview, is just how much of the world in which we live really is constructed of social agreements. And what's cool to me about that is if we made it up once, we can make it up again. So I hope you enjoy this interview, learning from David. I really enjoyed this book. I loved talking to David. I think he's a fascinating guy, exploring some interesting things. So if you are, like me, a fellow learning nerd, I think you'll enjoy this conversation. Before we end, as I usually do, we get into David's writing habits and routines, and he has some fascinating answers as well in the enlightening lightning round about travel, about money, and about other things. So with that, I hope you enjoy this conversation with my new friend, David Henkin.